Hey everybody, it's Brandon, the Weekend Cruiser, where I get to go on a weekend cruise just about every weekend. And as you may know from watching some of my prior videos this week, unfortunately I did test positive for COVID-19 while aboard Royal Caribbean's Freedom of the Seas on the New Year's Eve sailing. Now I got a lot of outpouring of well wishes, get better soon. And I wanted to come on and address some of the questions that I got. So I think that there's kind of some themes to some of the questions that were asked on the page, and wanted to put together a quick compilation video of what some of those most frequently asked questions are. The first one was, what is my vaccination status? So I did not mention this in the initial video because every adult that goes on a cruise these days should be fully vaccinated, meaning 2 doses of Pfizer, Moderna, 1 dose of Johnson & Johnson. So everybody's vaccinated. I personally myself did receive my 3rd booster shot of Moderna in October as well, but unfortunately still came down sick with COVID-19. I also got a lot of questions around testing, which was addressed, but I'm going to mention it here again quickly. I did test on Wednesday morning with a rapid test, which works for the cruise line's protocols. I boarded on Friday feeling absolutely fine, and then woke up Saturday morning, unfortunately, not feeling fine anymore. And that's when I voluntarily seeked out medical treatment. So there's nobody that goes around and requires you to test after you board the ship unless you seek medical treatment yourself. So that is a voluntary process. From there, a lot of people wanted to know what is the refund status? So what's going to happen as far as I paid for this cruise and now I am in quarantine. So the cruise ship does refund you for the portion of time that you are in quarantine. So they're going to change your room. You're going to go to the red zone or the quarantine floor where you're going to stay. And for that period of time, they're going to refund you or give you future cruise credit, I should say, of the fare that you paid for that amount of time. Port fees and taxes, they're not going to give back to you, but they will do that. They will cancel your drink package, refund that as well. And if you had the internet package, I think that they'd probably give you a pro rata piece of that back too, as I believe quarantine comes with complimentary internet as well. You do have to change rooms though. So I mentioned before that you do need to go into a quarantine floor or the red zone, and this is going to vary for every ship. So I shared my experience on Freedom of the Seas, but if you're on a different ship, they may have different protocols or a different floor that you would quarantine on. A lot of people thought fresh air of a balcony would have been fantastic, and I will agree with that. But I don't know that I would want me in the balcony room beside of me or even below me, knowing how much I was coughing on this sailing. I think that it would be annoying, and I would still be worried about germs. So I understand why they house us in one spot. They could also take better care of us and monitor in that location as well. A big one that came up was around room service. So room service is fully included in quarantine. And with that, some people say, well, can you still order from the main dining room? I don't necessarily want to order pizza or chicken fingers from the room service menu. I did not attempt to order from the main dining room, but I assumed that you could. Every interaction I had with guest services and the people coordinating was very pleasant, and they were very accommodating. So I'm pretty sure that if you put in a request for the main dining room, you probably could get the main dining room. I personally had an onboard credit that I didn't want to lose, so I actually purchased specialty dining and had Giovanni's table as well as chops delivered for my 2 nights in quarantine. And one thing that I want to do is also remind everybody that when you're in quarantine, you are sick. You are sick enough to go to the medical facility and seek treatment and seek out a COVID test. So some of the questions that I got were a little bit humorous to me. The first one was, can you have alcohol in quarantine? Or will room service, does it include alcohol? I was sick, guys. Like, I think that you have that traditional cruise mentality of you're supposed to be drinking, enjoying your drink package. When you're in quarantine, you are sick. You do not want alcohol. You probably don't even want a hot toddy, honestly. Even if you did though, I'm sorry to report that the quarantine floor is a sober floor and room service will not deliver alcohol to the sick patients in the quarantine section. A lot of people also mentioned they'd feel claustrophobic or they'd want the ability to be able to leave the room. I mean, and I'd say the same thing. This one is a lot more understandable. The door, first of all, is not locked. I feel like some people think that, I was locked and the door was open. I could certainly walk out if I wanted to. But again, you're sick. You're not wanting to lay by the pool. You're not wanting to go enjoy Nassau. You kind of just want to stay in bed in the darkness and rest. So I was quite comfortable not leaving the room. That policy didn't bother me at all. You also don't get a key card for quarantine, something that I didn't think about until like the second day. But you don't have a room key to get back into your room, even if you wanted to. Now, I don't think that there were any guards per se monitoring the area. I think when I was leaving or disembarking, if you haven't watched that video, check it out. I did see a place where there could have been a guard, but there were people coming and going in the hallway, but I don't think that I ever saw anybody just standing watch. The other next popular question, when is my next cruise? This is something I am asking myself as well. And the answer to that is, I don't really know. So initially, and I said this in the first video, that it was a 5-day waiting period by the CDC. So fast forward to 2 days later, another conversation that I had with Royal is that their check-in app, I think still shows 10 or 14 days. And so if I answer that question truthfully, I'm locked out for 10 or 14 days from the actual test that I took. So that would be on Saturday from the positive result there. So I have canceled several cruises at this point. The next available one would be January 21st that I am scheduled on. I'm hopeful that I can make it. It's probably a good thing that I am not going this weekend. I think in the moment, I was just being really optimistic. But I am still not feeling well. It might be a little bit awkward for all of you who have watched me through this journey, which I just got off the ship on Monday, to see me back on the ship this Friday. Out and about hanging out with the passengers might be a little awkward. I also don't think that I could get a negative COVID test that quickly. From everything that I've heard in the comments, thank you all for mentioning this down there. I think that it's going to take a while for COVID to work through the system and get me a negative result, which is required for me to go back onto the cruise ship. So I'm not going to try again for another, 2.5, 3 weeks. Should it work out, I will, but I will be making a healthy decision to return to sailing when, number one, I am feeling 10 times much better, and I get that negative result. So with that, everybody, this is Brandon, the Weekend Cruiser, hoping to see you COVID-free on a weekend cruise soon.